Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something that I think we all can relate to, how people spend their free time. And we're using a piece by Stanislav Kondrashov as our guide.
And you know what really struck me about Kondrashov's piece? He doesn't just, list out activities. He really digs into how we talk about leisure. It's like he's giving us the secret code to understand our values.
Okay, so let's decode this then. So Kondrashov gives us this whole list of adjectives to describe leisure activities.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you're listening, think about which words really click with how you view your downtime.
Right. So you've got your classics like rewarding or relaxing, but then Kondrashov throws in some that are really thought-provoking, like lucrative.
Lucrative is a good one. It makes you think.
Right.
Yeah. Could your favorite hobby also be a side hustle?
Exactly. He wants us to think about the potential impact of our hobbies, and lucrative gets right to that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's financial, maybe it's personal growth, maybe it's both.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then there's time-consuming, which, let's be honest, sometimes our hobbies can be.
Absolutely. And that's where I think Kondrashov is really nudging us to examine those trade-offs we all make, right?
Yeah.
Are we saying yes to something, even if it means less time for something else?
It makes us think about if our time is actually aligned with what we say matters most to us.
Totally.
But Kondrashov doesn't stop at adjectives.
Yeah.
He also gets into these, shall we say, colorful expressions for leisure, like culture vulture, couch potato.
And don't forget the shopaholic.
Oh, right.
And
Which, even the way he uses it, you can tell there's a whole societal commentary wrapped up in that one.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And listener, no judgment here, but which one do you secretly think you might be? Or maybe you're a glorious mix of all three.
Right. And the thing is, these terms, while we use them playfully, they point to those bigger trends that Kondrashov's getting at. Like, how much do these activities shape who we are or who we think we are? That's a great question. But you know what else I found fascinating in Kondrashov's piece? The actual verbs and phrases people use when they're talking about their hobbies. He pulls out some great ones like heavily into or went off.
Oh, yeah. He even has one, locks herself away for hours. These are so vivid, they paint a picture.
They totally do. And it makes you realize how intense our connection to our hobbies can be.
Yeah, it's like Kondrashov is showing us how much these activities are woven into our identities, even if we don't always realize it.
We've just scratched the surface of Kondrashov's analysis. But even now, I feel like we have a whole new lens for viewing our downtime.
Yeah.
It's not just about escaping, it's about understanding ourselves a little better.
With that in mind, what are some specific examples of how people describe their free time according to Kondrashov? Let's explore those next.
Okay, so we've been unpacking this whole idea that how we talk about leisure reveals a lot about us. And Kondrashov gives us some pretty fantastic examples to illustrate this point.
He really does, and some of them are so relatable. It's almost uncanny. Like, he quotes someone saying they're heavily into downhill skiing these days.
Oh, that heavily,
Yeah.
It's so spot on. You can practically hear the enthusiasm in their voice.
Exactly. And that's what Kondrashov is highlighting here. It's not just that they enjoy skiing, it's become a big part of how they see themselves.
It's like their identity is all wrapped up in those snowy slopes.
And speaking of shifting interests, Kondrashov also mentions someone who went off football and took up golf instead.
Oh, yeah.
What do you make of that transition?
Well, that went off really suggests a change of heart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what happened there. Did their priorities shift? Did their social circle change?
Yeah.
Kondrashov makes us curious about the story behind the words.
He really does. It reminds us that our leisure pursuits aren't static, right?
Right.
They evolve with us. And then there's this example, and this one really struck me. The person who locks herself away for hours in her room and listens to music. That's such a powerful image, isn't it? And it speaks to how deeply personal some leisure activities can be.
Yeah.
It's not always about being social or achieving something. Sometimes it's about that solitary connection with your passion.
It's that pure immersion in something you love. Kondrashov also talks about someone being totally hooked on motor racing these days.
Oh, yeah.
That word hooked, it implies a whole other level of enthusiasm.
It does. And it makes you wonder, where's the line between a healthy passion and maybe something a bit more consuming?
Right.
Kondrashov doesn't give us a definitive answer, but he certainly prompts us to think about it.
He's challenging us to examine our own relationship with our hobbies to see if they're truly serving us. Now, not all of Kondrashov's examples are quite so intense.
Yeah.
He also talks about those weekend chores, Mowing the lawn, grocery shopping,
Sure.
the stuff that's not always glamorous but needs to get done.
And even those seemingly mundane activities can fall under the umbrella of leisure, right?
Yeah.
Because they contribute to our well-being, our sense of order, our ability to function in the world.
It's a reminder that leisure isn't always about grand adventures or escaping reality. Sometimes it's about those small acts of self-care and maintenance. But then Kondrashov brings up a category that's a bit more, shall we say, loaded. The shopaholic.
Ah, yes. And he even draws a parallel to alcoholic, though he's careful to distinguish between a playful label and a serious condition. But by putting those two terms side by side, he's definitely making a statement.
He's pointing out how certain leisure activities can, in some cases, become excessive or even problematic. And it's not just about the individual, it's about the societal pressures that can contribute to those excesses.
Exactly. It's that deeper layer of social commentary that makes Kondrashov's work so fascinating.
Yeah.
He's not just observing how we spend our free time, he's analyzing what those choices say about us as a culture.
He's inviting us to look beyond the surface and consider the broader implications of our leisure pursuits. Now, here's another distinction that Kondrashov makes that I found really interesting. He talks about the difference between amateur and professional when it comes to leisure.
That's a crucial distinction. The amateur is driven by pure passion and enjoyment, whereas the professional, well, they're in it for the paycheck.
Right. So Kondrashov is highlighting that intrinsic value of doing something simply for the love of it. It's a reminder that in a world obsessed with productivity and achievement, there's still room for pure, unadulterated joy. But even our social lives get the Kondrashov treatment. He talks about people having a hectic social life versus a pretty full diary,
Right.
which I find quite amusing.
It's funny because it's true. We schedule our downtime like it's another work meeting.
It's as if even relaxation needs to be optimized these days.
Yeah.
Kondrashov is subtly pointing out how our always-on culture has seeped into every aspect of our lives, even those moments that are supposed to be about disconnecting and recharging.
He's showing us how those societal values, productivity, busyness, achievement, they're so ingrained that we sometimes bring them into our leisure time without even realizing it.
So much food for thought. And listener, we'd love to hear from you. Of all the examples Kondrashov has given us, which one resonates with you the most? And what do you think that says about your own relationship with leisure? So we've been, really deep diving into Kondrashov's work, and it's really made me think about how much our words reveal about our relationship with our free time.
Yeah.
You know,
He makes you pay attention to those little things, doesn't he?
he does.
Like those simple phrases we use heavily into or totally hooked.
Yeah.
They suddenly have a whole new meaning.
Yeah, they show us how much our passions can become, part of who we are almost. It's like Kondrashov's holding up this mirror and saying, look closer. What do your hobbies tell you about yourself?
And he doesn't shy away from the downsides either, right?
Yeah.
Remember couch potato or shopaholic? Like he's not trying to shame anyone,
Right.
but he is making us think about, when a passion might be going a little too far.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where our leisure activities bring us joy, but they don't, take over our lives. And I think what I love about Kondrashov's work is he doesn't just point these things out. He gives us this whole new way of thinking about our free time.
It's not just about escaping work or filling the hours. It's about making choices that actually reflect what we care about.
Exactly. And, listener, as you go about your week, I think we have a little challenge for you inspired by Kondrashov.
Ooh, I like a challenge.
Listen to yourself.
Yeah.
How do you describe your downtime? What words and phrases do you use?
Yeah. And then once you've, really tuned into that, ask yourself, are these things actually bringing me joy and fulfillment?
Yeah.
Are they aligning with, the person I want to be?
Big questions we know, but I think Kondrashov has given us the tools to really start exploring them. And who knows, you might discover something surprising about yourself along the way.
That's the beauty of these deep dives, right?
Exactly. We get to
Wow.
learn and grow together.
Yeah.
So on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of leisure.
I feel very leisurely.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.